Okay. So yesterday what we discussed? Yesterday we discussed mm, some activities like switch case, switch activity, some control flow activities, right? Uh, so control flow activities like while, do while, and switch. So here go to switch. Come down. See, I open docs.ui path. See, whatever the doubts you have, then go to docs.uipath.com. This is the only document is available for a UiPath. So in order to get more information, see, I would say one thing. This is one of the best time to learn. So you'll have more time. So at least spend some time on to learn more about. So what are the new activities? Okay, and assume that like now I have a file. Okay, what are the input it might be? So whether it is a like no web form, you take whatever it may be, like no, which is related to so your previous experience. Like no, you have come through, you studied like no BTech or something, right? So you just to take any one of them. So and then try to automate it yourself. Okay, how to do that? So how do you like no, I need to read that. Try different ways. Then only you can able to learn. Choose. Okay, so here do well activity. So just go through this and like no read it. So after this, so you will have an example. Okay, just like no replicate the same. You try to do this for each and everything, whatever it may be. Like no whether it is a any as of now we have just take any activity, just go through every day one activity and practice whatever is available in this. Then you will able to like now remember it very easily. Okay, that's what I would tell. So in order to get some experience in this, that means like no some if you want to become an expert, okay, you want to get job early. So this is the only way. Spend as much time like no you would like to spend. Okay, now we'll so now we will see some activities. Okay, now data table. Okay, so what is data table? So data table is nothing but like now we can call it say structured data. So That means, see, we have two types of data. So one is unstructured data and structured data. So structured data is nothing but a data can be represented in the form of rows and columns, or columns and rows. That is structured data. So the data which is not in the form of rows and data. So like now, if you consider sorry, why do you go for this? Take this. So this is a unstructured data. So because, so it is a plain text, right? So this is called what do you say, unstructured data. So if the data is in the form of tables, okay, so then we can call it say structured data. So if you want, that is like no, that is in the form of some rows and columns. Okay, so that is data. So whenever we have a data in the form of Excel, okay, your input data will be in Excel. So whenever you would like to fetch the data from Excel, so what is the output? So the output we would get is table format. So if you have the data in the table format, how you will proceed the data with the how you will take the data and input it to the application. So that is what the use case criteria. That means that is our requirement. See, in the RPA requirement, this is considered, this is one of the use case. Okay, so it is like you have a data in Excel and you need to take the data like consider this is your data. So like order date, region, okay, and a repository, so item, units, unit cost and total. So this is your data, or this is your data where you have some hundreds of like no customers information is available. Consider this is your like no, the first one is columns, represent columns. That means the first row of Excel file represent column and the remaining like no rows represents values. Okay, that means the remaining values can be represented as rows and the first one represents a column. So this is your data. Okay. So now you want to take this data and process this data. So now what I have to use? So the first activity is so what is the first activity we have to use? So Excel application scope. So that means we have the data in Excel, right? So what is the way where the file is available? See, because like now we already seen that like now if you have the data in folder, so how to retrieve the data, how to retrieve a file from the folder, we have seen that. So we have to use directory.get files. There we have to path up the file, correct? And then so what is the file name? So here like now, see each and every time like now we cannot go and like now say replicate the same activity because it is a time consuming process, right? So like now directly I'm giving the file path. Give me a second. So whenever you are okay. So then what is the output of this? So go to properties and see the output is workbook. So do you have any password? So that means if the file is protected with password, so you have to use this password field here. Okay. So here I need to see for each and every activity you have to rename it. That means so according to your requirements, this is read the input file. Okay. So after this, once I use Excel application scope, I have to use. So we need to read all the data. Correct, right? So then I have to use read range activity. So if you want see if there are two cases, right? One is if you want to read entire data, so we have to use read range activity, or if you want to use only some particular rows of data, so we have to use read row or read cell. Okay. So in this read range, so what are the inputs I have to provide? So sheet name. What is the sheet name? So because I have changed like now for our convenience. But like now when you are working on that, so we have to use get worksheets. That is also one time activity. So you cannot do each and every time. Only one time only you will read the data from like now input file, right? You will not read each and every time. And the output here it is data table. Control K, data table. Okay. So I would like to read all the values from Excel. That's the reason like now here I put colon. Like now double quotes. So otherwise, if I want to read only some portion of text, so from first value to only I would like to read only A B C D F G A B C D E F. Okay, G. So G only 10 values I would like to read. So I can give the range like this. Okay, but our situation is I would like to read all the data from Excel. So that is the reason I will put a range like this. Okay. So range, see if you want to read all the values, so I just you have to use like this. Otherwise I told it we have to use in that way. Now we have the data. So what is your what is your next action to be performed? So you want to read the data one by one row, correct, right? So for that we have to use. So now the data is available in the data table. So now I need to fetch one by one row from the table. So for that what I have to use? I have to use read So when we will use for each loop and when we will use for each row in data table. So there is one activity called for each row in data table. So for each row can be used if we have the data in the collections, maybe lists or dictionary or arrays. So these are all some collections, right? So if you have the data in the collections, you have to use for each row. If you have the data in table, so you have to use for each row in data table. So this is also very important in interview. So if you are putting 1 year of experience or 1.5 year experience, see the people, the interviewer can able to understand or can identify you in the beginning itself. That means, so the way you are talking to the interviewer or explaining your project or explaining by telling your experiences while introducing your self introduction. So he will easily identify that whether you have really 2 years of experience in your path or total there may be 1 year of experience on your path. So he can easily identify that. So that is the reason. So you have to practice more. See, nothing. So you just explain whatever you are doing. That is enough. But the questions will be in a, see, the answers would be same. But the interviewer will ask the questions to confuse you, to confuse the candidate. They will tweak it. Say I would like to read the data from data table. So what is the activity I have to use and what are the inputs I need to pass? So what is the output of that? That's it. So you have to understand when you will get it. So if you practice well, then only you will be able to get it. Okay. So if you have the data in the data table, so we have to use each. Okay. So in the for each row data table, go to properties. What is the input we have to pass? Data table. So I might be, because of this scope, yes, exactly. So data table where the scope is, we have to select to the sequence. This is the scope. So now data table. Data table is the input we have to provide to the for each row in data table. So what is the output? So the output is index, control K, index. So that means so index is nothing but the index of the each and every row. See, index starts from 0, right? That means first row, second row, third row, fourth row, fifth row. That means 0th row, first, okay, like that. Okay, and we need to so for each in where the the output is available. Output is available in data table. So now we are fetching the data from this. Okay, so in data table, then where it will go? So it will pick the first row and come to the current row. So now the data is available in control. That means the first row it will pick from the table and all the data can be put into current row. So now right line. Okay, so sorry. So what I have to use? Current row dot dot. See, now we are fetching the value from the table row by row. So I want to fetch first name. Okay, so I want to fetch the data from the first row, first name or last name, what all the fields are there, first name, last name, and email, then followed by address, okay, role in company. These are my column names, right, in the input data, that means in the table. So dot item of, so what is the column name? I will give first name. Okay, so that is the column name we have to pass as a argument. So dot toString. So what it does, it will fetch all the first name column values. Okay, so I just executed it, so we got an error, does not belongs to open it. Oh God. So what is this? Oh, there is a space in between. So the column names should be equal to what are the column names are there, like no, it should be matched to the item, otherwise no, you will not receive it. That means you like no, you will get the error like this. Just give some space. So this is how my column name would be. See, so I got the output. So see, whenever you are working on real time, you will never use write line, correct? So you will use how you will pass the data to the application. So we will see that later. So first of all we need to know how to read the data from from table. Okay, how to process the data from table. Then okay, like this. So then so this is the way you have to take the data. So current row dot item of I passed as a column name. Otherwise, so what is your input, output? So by using for each row, it is a index. So how you will pass this index? So write line current row of so here it is a item dot. So index. See it. Okay. So what we'll get? Whether we'll get an error or could not find column 7. So here I am able to mm, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so after that could not find column 7. Because so previously we have this data, we have some data over here, right? So in the column, so because we deleted it, that is the reason it is we are getting that error. So 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 index means, so it takes the wait. Already it is there, right? So here it is, index. Okay. Toggle. Now we will get the index of 0. So that means this is the first row, and then it will pass to this, so it will execute all the row values from first. So how it will read it? So email, it will come from this way. So email, and then company name, then followed by phone number, then followed by last name, first name, address, then role company, role in company, and then the next column what is available. Okay, so like that it will. So whenever you are using whenever you are using index, okay, so here you have to take one more precaution, that data table dot, so column count. Okay, so you will get columns count. So column count should not be, so here you have to pass that. So that the index value should not go with the more than that column count. Okay, so you will take one assign statement, and we will assign one integer value. So column count, how many columns are there. So for example, okay, now 7 columns. We will go and see how many columns are there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, 7 columns, right? So in this 7 columns, only it has to read the data. That means take the data. So it should not go beyond that. That's what you have to put the condition over here, and we will, if it is, so index is greater than data table dot column count, so then it will go to else part. Other than, it will go to the oh, it is. So we will try. If data table dot column count index, right? Index is greater than data table dot column count. Greater then only in else part we will run it. So here index, so 7. Data table dot column count. So how much is that? 7. Okay. Index. Okay. So the condition index is less than data table dot column count. So then, so because index starts with a 0, but the table like now column count is starts from 1, right? 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. So that is the reason, so we have to use. So now it read all the data. Okay. So this is how you have to be. Okay. If you want. So at the same time, in order to fetch all the data, so we have to use. This is only one row. If you want to read all the values, we should not use this condition. So we should not use index first of all. So then what we have to use? Index can be used to index plus 1. So always we have to increment. Okay, then only. So that and all, like now you try that. So otherwise in the sense, so we will use for each loop rather than using index. Like now we can use current row dot item of, so that column name, if we provide a column name, so we will fetch all the values of the column name. So how many values are there? If it is 100, 200, or like no 1000, so there is no limit in the data. Okay, now what is it? For each row. So data table. So what are all the different data like now activities available in data table? So first we see for each row in data table, right? We just so now your data column. Okay. So in the add data column, so we'll see one by one activity. So what are all the inputs are required? So a data column, that means a data column object that is to be appended to the column collection of the data table if this property is set of the properties under the options category are ignored. So the column name, so I am giving column name as, and so these are what all the inputs are required. The inputs are column or column name. So we can provide column name, first name, last name, what we will give. So we will give as a column name salary we will give. Okay, so this will create only a column. and data table. So like that, if you want to increase, so if you want to provide any other options like no allow db null, so if you want to like no allow db null in the sense you want to allow a null value to this column. If yes, so we can, so here a checkbox, this is called checkbox. Auto increment, you want to increment, so whenever it is running, so it will increment one column name, so I don't want. So if you want to set any default value for this, so default value, come here, it is a object, so what I should do, 3000. Okay. And any maximum value, that means the maximum length for each row of a new column. So you want to set it this one. See, this is for if you know or if you have an idea, so database, any database, maybe MySQL or SQL or what is it, Oracle, whatever it may be. So then you will go to know what is this feature, allow db null or auto increment or like no default value, maximum length. So that means maximum length of the, so it should accept only 5 characters or 5 digits or 6 digits or 7 digits. I can give only 5. That means only 5 values. So if I see, if I use, so it will not accept because the maximum length I gave only 5. So it will accept only 5 digits, up to 5 digits. Okay, maximum length is nothing but up to 5. So you want to use this as a unique column. That means like no, you want to say, for example, already 3000 is there, but see salary I use like no, it will be similar, right? This is not a primary key column. So we will have, when we go with the database concept, there like no, there are primary column, like no, primary column or unique column. So primary column is nothing but it should not allow any null values, or it should not allow any duplicate values. Duplicate values is nothing but, see, see I have an employee number like no 1 2 3 4 5. So when you join in a company, so the same employee number will not give to different employee, like no, when the new employee are joining into the company. That is primary key. So that is called a unique values. Okay, you want to set it unique values? No, because this is not a unique field, right? Salary like no, I am getting 3000 per month. So the another employee will also have the same salary, right? There is no restriction like no, we should have only like no, salary is unique. It depends on the field or it depends on the column. Okay, so what is the output? So nothing, only it is considering type argument. We can call it a string. Sage. So when I select a type argument, everything has been changed. So that means that this column is a string or integer or maybe what is that, boolean value. So some cases where like no, where we will use like no, or a permanent employee or like what is that, contract employee. So here like no, we will have one column permanent, so yes or no type, so that we can call it a boolean type. So whatever the value we can like no, specify over here. What is the type of this? So like that. So data column. So we are adding one column and we will check whether, how do you know that whether the column has been added into the table or not? So for that, what we have to use? box. So data table dot column count. Okay, so just now we checked that there are 7 columns. Now whenever we add column, the name of the column has been to salary as one of the column. So because if I make some changes, so how do I can the same replicate can be in the Excel file. So for that I told we will talk about right range activity later. Okay, so we have to provide where you would like to keep it. That means where the input file. This is the file and table, data table, and we don't want this. Another process. Why? Because so here we are opening file for reading purpose, but we did not close it, right? So when it will be, so after reading everything, then only it will close. So that is the reason that is the reason I workbook. Okay, so when it is going to be, so under this, so we need to yes. Okay, so now we are closing that work. We'll see that whether we are able to it was ended, and go and see that whether this has been updated. See, so there is no column names. Sorry. So whenever we are using right range, so here we have add address is one of the property where we have to select it. So we did not check that property, so it is disabled by default, so we have to make it as enabled. Already we open now. Nonsense. Okay, now it is perfect because this is already saved, right? So we did not so even here while reading the data, read range activity, oh yeah, address are there, then why so there is some property where it is called okay, so The issue here it is right range activity is not replacing the, got it? What is the error? So already it is saved in this, so it is not replacing. What are the values are there? So now I made it empty. Now run it. Okay. Now we open and see. There is no data. Data table. Why it is adding only empty rows? Maybe we are closing this workbook over here, and we are keeping the values here. Data table sheet and add header, okay, and then closing workbook. So we are adding column. Where we are adding column, that we are not telling where we are adding. Okay, anyway it will add at the end of this. Data table, column. So we'll see. So don't want to waste time. So see, usually if you want to add a column, so when it comes to the database activities, what we do is data table activities, so there is one, the first activity which one we have to use is build a data table. This is the activity we have to use. So that means that if you want to read the data from Excel, so then we have to use read what is that Excel application scope, or if you want to create a data table manually in the sense without taking the data from Excel. So first we have to use build a data table. So we can build the data table by using this. Okay, build a data table. Then we have to define what are the columns we would like to use plus. So here column name. So I use first name. So here see the difference is, so first name here there is one add data column, right? So the same properties are available in this also. allow now auto increment. Okay, what is the default value you want to pass, or is it whether it is a unique value or not, or it is a maximum length. Okay, plus last name, it is also a string, and then create one more column, first name, last name, city, that is also a string. So plus not address, email. Okay, so like this we will create a table. So first we have to use build a data table. Click on OK. So now the table has been created. Go to properties. So the output is what is the table name we will get. So I will use the same data table only. So here I don't want to use, consider we are creating a new data table over here. So previous case we took the data from Excel and we read the data. So like now how to read one by one row we saw, correct, what are the values are there. So you have to use that item dot item of, or if you want to use index, so the of index of like now index value you have to put like that. Now the scenario is how I want to create a data table from UiPath. Consider first like now see this is the case where we will use, for example like now I do not have any table kind of structure. So I have a plain text where I have to like now read one by one values, and like now first name, last name. Okay, all of the values are there and I need to put it into the table format. So for that we have to use build a data table, and then we added all the like now some columns, what are the columns we want. So now once it is done, what you, so we have to add the data, right? So add data, that is what we have to use. So add data row is so array of in object. So if you have, so and then to which what is that, so data table you are going to add data. What are all there? Update row item, get row item, filter, generate data table, so get row item. So here we have to pass, what is the input, data table. Okay, and we have to pass data row object to be added to the data table. If this property is set, then arrow row. So either we can pass row of values like this or data row like this. So otherwise how we will pass, first name, okay, comma, comma. So like this, like now how many columns are there? Chennai. And then how many columns are there? I believe maybe 4, no? So here 1, 2, 3, city, and there are 4 columns, correct? Yes. So we have to pass 4 values. Okay, so use message box to get data table dot row count. See, so 2 rows. How it can be 2 rows? So whenever you are adding a what is that, build a data table, so it can be considered as a, the first row also a row. See, column names we gave, right? So that is the difference when you are building a data table or when you are reading the data from the Excel. So the first rows can be considered as a column, but here the first row can be considered the first row can be considered as a row only, not the column. That is the difference. Okay, so here data table dot column count. See, in the data table we can apply all the, there are 4 columns, correct? No? So this is where, so we can, so now right. Oh, we did one mistake actually. When our data table workbook path data table, so here add headers and then path. So I want to give a new file name. This is the path. Slash. See, there is no file. So what it does? So it will create a new file. So build data table, right? Build data table dot see. Okay, so here also it is considering rows, means that it has created one empty row. Okay. So by building this, so that means while building a data table, remove. Now, oh God. because my file was open, right? So whenever we run the file being open, that is the reason we got an error. Because there are two rows, right? So there is one empty row in the while building the data table. That is the reason it shows two rows. See, so already we have one row, and again we added, right, from the like data row. So how many times we run that, so it will create those many records. So by using build data table, because whenever you are using a already existing table, if you want to what is that, overwrite means, we have to use, see, while reading the data, so we used Excel application scope, but this also needs to be put in the Excel application scope, right? So we used a workbook activity. That is the reason it was not, the data was not saved properly. Got it? So this is a workbook activity, but previously we used a workbook activity, but where we read the data and put it in the table in the form of Excel application. Got it? So now whatever we like to show, that has been sorted out. So this is how we add data row. So then tomorrow we will see. Tomorrow is Saturday, right? So tomorrow, when we will have the session, when it will be feasible? 6 o'clock? Only 6. For tomorrow Saturday, that too Kartik month. I don't know. So any time around 2 o'clock, 2 to 3, or we don't want. So that, see, decide and tell me in WhatsApp. So based on that, based on the majority people interest, we will take the session tomorrow. See, my intention is I need to what is that? I need to finish as early as possible, because then you will be able to, that would be help to search the jobs or attend an interviews, right? That too, we are skipping some of the days, so we need to cover that. Okay friends, please let me know in WhatsApp. So then we will have the session tomorrow or not, we will decide. Okay. So is it clear? Do you have any queries?